Okay, students, we're going to review the basics of your calculator. Okay, when you come into DCAS, you need to know where your calculator is on the screen. It's right up here in the middle of it. Okay. You cannot ask on the DCAS where it is. You have to know where it is. Just like over here, this exhibits on the right over here is your formula sheet. Click on the exhibits, and this is the formula sheet. All Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 get the same formula sheet right here. So some of you may need, some of you may not. So you're talking this whole side right down here and this right here for geometry. Okay. All this from here down pretty much is for Algebra 2. Okay. And then up top, Algebra 1. Oftentimes up top here doing conversions, but you may need it in geometry or Algebra 2, but for sure in Algebra 1 when you do conversions from one unit to another. Click on the X, it goes back over there. So again, circle right up here in the middle is your calculator. So I click on it, comes up, looks like this. I hit clear right over there on the right side below the down arrow. You see it's still highlighted in red. That was the last button I just pressed. Okay, now if you're a geometry student or Algebra 2 student, the first thing you should do is you hit mode right there. And you'll notice that the graphing calculator is in radians. I need to go down and change it to degrees. So I make it degrees right there, put that cursor on it and hit the enter button. And now it changes degrees. I hit second, quit to go back to the main screen. Because when you do any degree calculations, you're going to be in degrees. You cannot calculate it correctly if you're in radians. It'll give you wrong answers. Okay, so that's geometry and Algebra 2. Okay, but we're going back to the very basics even. Basic math, okay? So that you know how to do this. Since you just already know this, but some of you, again, don't choose to memorize your math, even your calculator, and need a refresher on it. You need to work on memorizing this. As you keep going up in math, they expect you to know it all the prior stuff, so they only have to teach you new stuff. Okay, so let's say I want to add a fraction. I can go 4 divided by 5, that's 4/5, minus 2 divided by 3, 2/3. I hit enter. I'm like, oh man, that's a decimal. I don't know what that decimal is in a fraction. Because again, if they give you an answer in fractions, they usually want the answer back in fractions. So how do you do that? Calculator do it for you. You hit the math button right there. Notice number 1 is fraction. So I just hit enter. It says, do you want your answer, that 0.13 repeating bar, or that's how you would write it down. If you write that down, it'd be 0.13 in the repeating bar only over the 3, not over the 1 and 3, or you get marked wrong. Okay, do you want that answer to change to a fraction? The answer is yes, so enter again. And the answer is 2/15. Now you have your answer in lowest or simplest terms to put down on your paper. Okay, so that's a major one you need to know. It doesn't matter what, if I did 8 divided by 9, let's say a bigger number. Let's say it was 42 divided by 96. And it gives me that. I'm like, well, is that the simplest fraction for 42 over 96? I don't know. Let me check. Hit math, enter, enter, and no, 42 over 96 simplifies down to 7/16. Remember we talked about when you watch the videos on fractions, you must simplify your fractions. Well, if you're allowed the graphing calculator, there's no excuse because you can just type in the number, it gives you as a decimal, hit math, enter, enter, it'll give you this fraction in lowest terms or simplest terms. You have to do that. If you can't do it in your head or on paper, you need to be able to plug in your calculator correctly. All right, let's say we want to plug in a line, to graph a line, hit the y equals. And I want the line to be 2x, so I hit 2, and I hit the link button, which is the x. You notice the first one is x, t, theta, and n. Each one can go for something different here. Okay, but represents x. So you can see it says 2x, and let's say I do minus 2. Hit enter, and I want to do the equation negative x. Why don't? So for negative x, if the first sign is negative, I cannot use the minus sign. It'll give you an error. I have to use the negative sign right there where it says answer. I have to use the negative sign there, then the X button plus 3. Hit enter. Now I want to find where those two lines intersect. Well, if I want to just look at the graph of them first off, I see it right there. And notice on the calculator here, it's color coded now. Now ours in school aren't, they're all black, but on the DCAS is the upgraded TI-84, notice CE plus there. So it has color coded ones. And so if you forgot which line was what, you hit the Y equals, and notice over here, the first line is blue, over here in the blue, and the second line is red. So that's why you can know which line is which. Okay, and now say we want to find that intersection point. I hit second calc, and I want number 5, intersection. I can just scroll down to 5 or just hit number 5. Notice that's for the first curve. A curve can be a line as well, just know that. And you know that for algebra 1. To find the intersection of the curves, that could be a line in a parabola, for example. In this case is 2 lines. Okay, first curve, yes, that's one of our lines we want to intersect. That's the other one. There's only 2 there. Guess, now the only reason I'd have to move the cursor away for guess is if there's more than one answer. Now, is there more than one line of intersection or points of intersection here? No, there's not. There's only one. So I can just hit enter right away. And it goes ahead and jumps that point. So the intersection is 1.6 repeating bar. So even though you see that 7 there, that 7 at the end is rounding the last digit. So the next number would have been a 6 as well, and that 6 made it go up to 7. So it really is 1.6 repeating bar, just so you know that. Okay, so let's say you don't know what 1.6 repeating bar equals. So you're just going to write it down, and then you see that's the X coordinate, comma the Y coordinate will be 1.3 repeating bar. So that is the decimal answer, the exact decimal answer. You don't put 1.6 if it doesn't tell you to round. You don't put 1.7 if it doesn't tell you to round, because rounding would be 1.7 if you're going to the nearest 10th. You don't do any of that unless it tells you in the directions. You always put down the exact answer. But a lot of you need to work on your rounding skills still. Or not, I won't say a lot, some of you do. Okay, it's usually lower end students. Okay, again, they choose not to remember the rules for math all the way from elementary school on. It keeps catching up with them. So they keep missing those as well. And you're going to miss points off of that. Remember, if whatever your roundings, first off, this first number is the 10th spot, then hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, million, okay, millions, they all end in THS. So it's not the once, there's no once, it starts at tenths, the first digit to the right of your decimal. So if I'm rounding the nearest 10th, I look to the number behind it, which is another 6. If the number is 5 or higher, you round up, go up. So that's why it'd be 1.7. Nearest 10th here, I look behind it, the next one behind it is 3. Well, that's not 5 or higher, so it stays at 3. This is rounded to nearest 10th. Okay, for that answer. Okay, so now let's say they want the answer. This is 1.6 repeating bar. They want the answer as a fraction. See, and you don't know. So second quit, and you don't know what 1.6 repeating bar is. So I can type in 1.6 and just go the end. Okay. Hit enter. It just does that for you. Now I hit my math, enter, enter, and the answer is 5/3. So 1.6 repeating bar is 5/3. I could do the same thing again for 1.3 repeating bar. Okay, enter, math, enter, enter, and that's 4/3. So the fraction answer would be 5/3, comma 4/3. All three of those are proper answers. These first, the first and the last are exact answers. Those are exact. This is rounded. Okay, you need to know the difference between exact answer and rounded answer. You need to read that in your directions. If it doesn't tell you to round, you must always solve for exact answers. Now you know how to do your conversions with that as well. Okay. Next thing is what happens if I need x squared? I'm going to do a parabola. I'm going to change this to y equals 3x, and I need the squared button. The squared button is right over here. This last one you see, it's in red on the left side above the log button or below the matrix button is the squared button. 3x squared, let's say, minus 4. Okay, and we want to find that intersection. So do second calc number 5 again. It's going to graph them both. Notice here we have 2 points of intersection. We still only have 2 curves, but we have 2 answers. So the first curve is yes, second curve is yes, we only have 2 there. Now the guess, it depends which one I want first. Whichever one, when I hit enter next, whichever one the cursor is closest to, it's going to jump to. So it's closest to that left one, so I hit enter, it's going to jump to it. And there's my answer. So if I was rounding that answer to the nearest tenth, that would be negative 1.7, comma 4.7, because both numbers after the 7 are 0, so it stays. Okay, now if I want the second one, I do second calc 5 again. First curve, second curve. Now this time on the guess, I hit the right arrow to move down closer to the other one. Hit enter now. The answer is 1.4, comma 1.6. Notice on the x after the 3 is a 6, so that makes it round up to a 4. 1.4, comma 1.6, round to the nearest tenth. Those are my 2 points of intersections, also called solutions. Okay, so that's that. Let's say you forgot where the x squared button was. Okay. So I'm going to put in the x again. I'll just clear it out. Let's say it was 4x, and I forgot squared. I can also use this caret symbol over here. The caret symbol, either we'll put a little caret symbol on the calculator, depending on what version of calculator you have, or it'll just move it up to a box like it does here. Now you can put in any exponent. So if I want it cubed, okay, remember this one over on the left side is only x squared, but if I want a different exponent, I use the caret symbol, or I can use it for squared as well. Okay, and let's say minus 1. Oops. So notice it left the minus 1 up top there. So I need to get down, I need to hit the right arrow. That moves it down. Now I hit minus 1. So that can also be a common error you forget to do. Okay, and now I want to do second calc number 5 again, find out where they intersect. Notice there's only 1 point of intersection here. So I can just go enter, enter, and enter, because only 1 point. And I get 0.9 for the x and 2.1. Notice the 8 is behind the 0, so it rounds up to 1. 2.1 for the y coordinate. So 0.9 comma 2.1 is that intersection point rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, let's see. The other one would be square root. Square root is right above the x squared. Notice it's in blue. So I need to hit the second button first, then that, now I have square root. And square root of 25. Hit right arrow to get outside of that, hit enter, and the answer is 5. Now, calculators don't simplify your radicals for you. You need to go ahead and be able to do that yourself. Even if your teacher is showing you any shortcut or you have a scientific calculator that does it for you, you still need to show in geometry class how to simplify radicals on your own. I got videos on that. Multiple videos on simplifying radicals. That's a major problem with students coming in not knowing that from Algebra 1 or middle school, how to simplify radicals. So make sure you watch that one multiple times if you struggle until you get it down. Let's see, anything else I want to point out? Window. If you can't see the graph you're looking for, you know, it doesn't show all the graph, you need to come to the window button here and adjust it. This only goes from negative 10 to 10 on both the x and the y. Say I want to show up to 50 or up to 500. I have to change that'd be for the x direction. You're not going to usually go ever that much on the x direction. You might on the y though for sure. You might want to go to 20 on the x. Okay, in real life problem would start at 0. But on the y, you might start at 0 because real life, remember that puts in quadrant 1, but it's might go up to 1,000. Okay, and then I hit graph. Okay, it's going to show that graph from x equaling 0 to up to 1,000. Now don't forget, you can also see selected values from that graph. I hit second graph, that gives me the table. So if I plug in 0, this is your XY T-chart. You usually hear it called in middle school. X is 0, Y, the value is -1 if I'm using the 4x cubed minus 1. Notice it has two answers, blue answer and red answer, because I have two equations in there. Let's say I only want to see the red one, y sub 2. I can go ahead and highlight that enter button. Notice it unhighlights it. So now when I go to the table, it's only going to show me the y values for that y sub 2 graph, y equals -x plus 3. Notice that it still gives you color-coded red, but it's only showing you that one now. So that's how, if you want to get just focus, if you get confused between leaving them on there, you can unequal one of them and it'll take it out of the table. So again, if I want to put it back in there, I just go over the equal sign and I hit enter. And now it puts it back in. It has both of them in there for the table. Now the value of this and having that is you could look at your table to see the point of intersection, see where the y values were the same. Okay. Of course, you can just use second calc 5 as well for intersection and find it that way. Let's see. Okay, another basic. If say how your calculator jams up, it's like frozen. It shows on the right side here. It's just dot, 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 dot. It's not doing anything. Just turn it off. Hit second on, which is the off button. Let's see if it's going to do it. I guess it's not going to clear out. Maybe because that's on there. Let's see if it'll turn off. Nope, it's not turn off here, but it'll turn off for you. And then just turn it back on. Okay. Another way is I go to second memory, second and the plus sign. And I hit 7 for reset. All RAM, yes. Number 1. Reset, you can hit 2 or just go down to 2 and hit enter. And now it's cleared all that out. So if something was jammed in it up somehow, it clears it all out. So that's that one. Another one would be, let's say I did 12 minus 15. And I'll bring up that equation again. I hit second and enter button down the bottom right. Notice it brings up what I typed in last time. And let's say I just want to, I mistyped it. It was supposed to be 12 minus 16. Notice now I'm just having to change that 5 to a 6 and hit enter. And that's -4. So it brings up your last entry. Okay, however you typed it. Could have variables in there, whatever. But whatever's your last entry on your main screen here. It'll bring the whole thing back up, and then you can just go in and edit whatever piece you need to edit instead of retyping the entire thing. Okay. Sine, cosine, and tangents are right here. You can't see it because I have it in black. Sine, cosine, and tangent right there for geometry when you get to the trig section. Sine, cosine, and tangent, you're using that to find the length of a side. You notice the one above it, it says sine to the -1. That means inverse sine or inverse cosine or inverse tangent. Those mean to find an angle measure. So whenever you're doing inverse sine, cosine, or tangent, this is to find an angle measure. That's the only time you're using that. You're not finding a side length, you're finding an angle measure. Okay, when you're using these ones. When I use the normal sine, cosine, tangent, that is for side lengths. So just know that as well. Let's see. If I hit second, that if you like to see the fraction written like this, notice you have a fraction right there. So say it was 4. I can just go down here, 5, 4/5 divided by, do fraction again. Let's say 8 divided by 9. Oops, I don't want to put that. I forgot that's how I normally would type it in. I'm just plugging them in there. 8 divided by 9, hit right arrow to get over there and hit enter. And notice if I type it in like this, as a fraction in that fraction one, it's going to give me the answer back in a fraction. So I don't have to hit that math enter to have it convert that decimal to a fraction. Because normally, see, if I just did 4 divided by 5 and then divide it, I need to have that in parentheses also. If I'm going to do it this way, 4 divided by 5 parentheses divided by parentheses 8 divided by 9 parentheses. Notice that gives me a decimal answer. Okay, because I didn't put it in that fraction symbols right there. That fraction symbol one is right here. It's right there in that corner. Alpha, the green button, and then that. So if you put it in with fractions in that one, it'll give your answer right away back as a fraction. Okay, that stops you from having to now, at that 0.9 there, hit math, enter, and it changes it to 9/10, the decimal, to a fraction for you. So that's just another one you can know to use. Table set, if you want to find a certain, if you want to find a certain value, let's see, do we have something in Y? So I can quit. Do we have anything in Y yet? No. Let's say 25x minus 36. And I want to find what that value is, the Y value of x is 49. I can do second calc. I'm trying to calculate something. I want the value when x is what? See how x is right here? You fill in the x value down there. I want it to be 49. Now, it says quit or go to because it's outside of my range. So my window, I'd have to change. Okay, so I said 49 for the x, so that'd be like 50 for the x. And the y value is going to be way up there. We'll say we'll have to go to 1,000. Okay, now I do second calc, value 49, and now it gives it to me because it can be graphed. So I had to change my window to make it to be graphed, and it's 1189. Okay. Now, what would have been simpler if I just typed in the main screen right here, and what was it? Oops. It was 25, so it'd be 25 times 49. 25 times 49 minus, what was it again? 36. We don't have an end on this. 36. And there's your 1189. That way, then I don't have to worry about adjusting the window at all. But you can do it that way. From it, you just have to adjust the window so the answer solution here of 1189 is actually graphed. The range is wide enough to carry it, and domain is wide enough to carry the answer itself. Let's see. You can store answers. If we want to find a regression line, they give you, no, we won't do that in this one. We'll stop this one. This is long enough, 23 minutes.